Hey Flock, Mike here from Epic Duck Studios, and I'm back with my part 2 of my 1000 point Age of Sigmar meeting engagements project vlog. Don't have a good name for it yet. The whole point was to paint as much of it as possible with contrast paints, and really just black and white base coat colors and metallics on top of that. I've cheated a tiny little bit, and mostly that was to appease some curiosity from some of my viewers on stream last night, and so I ended up using a light blue to base coat one of the gryph-hounds, and I'll talk about that in a minute here. So I started with my test model, which is just one of the basic, Stormcast grunts, and I'm pretty happy with it overall. The armor is basically just Space Wolves Gray over the Wraithbone base coat. What I wasn't happy with was the red came out really kind of splotchy, got that kind of coffee stain look to it. And so it turns out that that really happens if you use the contrast paints without thinning them whatsoever. If you mix in even the smallest amount of contrast medium, they start to behave a lot better. So this was just a solid coat of one color. The other thing I've learned is, so I was trying really hard to kind of like go around these lightning details and smoothly around here and everything. And that means I was using it very, very slowly. And contrast doesn't like that. Contrast wants to be slapped on. So the right way to kind of approach this is, first of all, add a little bit of contrast medium to it, and then also just go over the whole thing. Like, don't care if you get some up on, the edge of the shield and the hammer detail and so on, and then re-base coat those later when you want to bring the yellow in. And that way, your red's going on in as quick and smooth an application as possible. And apparently that's pretty important. So, I mean, I've only had contrast paints now for about 2 weeks, and we're all still learning how they work, I think. So that's my learning curve this week, or not my learning curve, the result of that learning curve this week was getting better reds. And you can see I've actually got a corn model I was working on here. And I mean, the red sources are a lot smaller, and certainly contrast paints work better when there's smaller surfaces with more detail. But in general, you can look at, the bracers, and those are pretty decently large surfaces, or even the sheath for his knife here. And you can see that there's not that same kind of pooling happening. And this was roughly 50-50 with the contrast medium. So it does give a better result there. So I just had this model primed and sitting around, and I wanted to test how a couple colors work together. And I'm pretty happy with the result, but of course I'm not doing a corn army, so this model was, in a way, a waste of time. It took away from the 1000 point challenge. So the other reason I was a little bit delayed working on my 1000 point army was I was actually working on some mecha models for Ash Barker's Gamble Wolves, which is a mecha skirmish game he's working on. It's going to be published through Osprey, I think next year, if not really late this year. And yeah, I had to get those models ready basically for a photo deadline. So there were a couple of different mechs from an artist named Philip Turs on Thingiverse. 3D printed them myself, basically sized them exactly so they fit on the correct bases. I'm pretty happy with them. Ash took some awesome pictures, and then he kind of repainted the bases himself just so they matched his other units so they'd look better in the photos. But anyway, that took away Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday nights getting those finished. So I didn't even start working on this project till Wednesday. And that was basically just a test model who's not really part of the list anyway. And then I worked on the gryph-hounds, and the gryph-hounds, of course, I wanted to paint each one distinctly, so I was, it gave me a good opportunity to experiment with different colors. And there's some colors here, like I think I really like how this one came out, and I'll probably bring some of this onto the gryph-chargers. This is probably the craziest one of the bunch. I've termed him the Death Budgie. The colors, so I was trying to do some blending with contrast paint, and this is actually Orc Flesh at the bottom. And this started as Aethermatic Blue at the top, and it was way too light. So I brought in the Talisar Blue instead, but I thinned it down a lot, and so it's probably still too light. And then the dots are just straight Leviathan Blue. And to me, it reminds me so much of a budgie I used to have when I was, a little kid, even with the white head. So I've deemed this gryph-hound the Death Budgie. He's going to be named that forever. At first I kind of did it as a joke, and I thought, my first couple of comments on Facebook were, the Death Budgie's got to go, I've got to strip this model. And then someone basically said, by got to go, do you mean is awesome? Okay, you know what, fine, I'm sold. I'll keep him. He'll probably make for some really interesting moments in battle reports. Because, I feel like he's going to be one of those models that either dies right away, or claims every objective all the time. There's not going to be an in-between here. He's going to be a model that like runs up and kills a 200-point general by just biting its foot off, or he's going to be just like cannon fodder and die in turn 1 every single game. We'll see which way he goes. So this one here, the body is just skeleton horde, and I actually really like how that came out. It's really smooth. It's got a good kind of like a natural sort of, you know, lion kind of color to it. So I was pretty happy with that. And then the head is just a slightly thinned down Leviathan blue, and the stripes again just Leviathan blue as well. This one is actually my least favorite color, which is oddly on a gryph-hound. This is gryph-hound orange, and you'd think gryph-hound orange would look good on a gryph-hound. Maybe it would if I used it on the head instead of on the body. I ended up, so this is actually not pure gryph-hound orange, because I went over it with a little bit of Agrax Earthshade to just punch up these shadows a little bit, because they just weren't deep enough for me. So yeah, this has got a little bit of an old school wash on it. So this is Blood Angels Red up top with gryph-charger gray on the bottom, and again more stripes than just pure Leviathan. Because it's one of the really like heavily pigmented colors, you can paint on sort of freehand details with it, and it almost just becomes like a pure dark blue. So it kind of works really well in that regard for doing any sort of, you know, cheapy freehanding. Oh, hang on, we gotta take a break. So this one here, I actually can't remember. This was either Nazdrag yellow or Eantin yellow. And then again, this one just didn't really give the deeper shadows I wanted, so I brought a little bit of, I think it was Skeleton Horde, just into like the feet and the bottom of the legs and so on, just to give it a little bit deeper shadow. So I'm finding that layering the different contrast paints on top of each other, it works really, really well in some cases. Specifically when you want to tone things down or add shadow to something. You know, there's a little bit of maybe some sloppiness around the feathers. You can see the orc flesh I used kind of spilled out a little bit onto the yellow. And that's not great, but it's really not noticeable unless you're staring at it really intently. And that's really not the point of these pieces, right? Like the whole purpose of this is to paint a tabletop army. So a couple little smudges here and there is not a big deal. So this one's, I love how this came out. It was a bit of a process getting to it, mostly because there were some mistakes made along the way. So someone asked me what they thought a wash of Shyish Purple would look like over a blue base coat. And I started with sort of like a mid-tone blue. I should have gone a lot lighter and I didn't. So I started with, I think it was Lothern Blue from Citadel. And then I did a Shyish Purple wash, but I did not thin the Shyish Purple enough. Like even after making a video saying, hey, Shyish Purple sucks, you need to thin it because it's super hyper-pigmented. I cut it, I thought like 3:1, but it came out more 50-50 and it just wasn't enough. It still went on really quite, you know, it pooled a lot. It was very, very splotchy and I just didn't like it. So what I ended up doing is I grabbed a really light color, Reaper's Morning After Blue. So that's this one right here, Reaper Morning After Blues. And I dry brushed over just all of the Shyish Purple. So the whole, like everything on the back was just dry brushed that color pretty much solid. And then I did a really thin wash of Shyish Purple, like actually about 3:1 or 4:1. I made sure it was, you know, I still had the other one on my palette, so I made sure it was, you know, visually much thinner than the first wash and brought it over all this. And I mean, there's really no purple to speak of, but I love how it came out. It's got like almost like a panther kind of feel to it. You know, it's there's a little bit of blue showing, but there's a lot of deep, dark, like purpley blue shadows. You know, if I'd use a slightly darker blue even, like maybe Reaper Ashen Blue or something, I think it would have even got a little more of that panther effect out, but it really has that sort of like the effect of being like a shiny fur coat, and I'm really happy with how that came out. The only thing I haven't done on these guys yet is paint their eyes. I figure I'll just do all the eyes on all the critters kind of as one batch towards the end of the project. A couple of them I did just kind of drop a little bit of wash in the eye hole, the sort of little crevice around the eye. But that's not really the same as painting them. But yeah, this guy's eyes are just completely blank. So that's where the project is now. The 6 gryph-hounds so far are done, and we're past the end of week 1 and into week 2. So it's actually a little disappointing, but I'm going to knock out 1 or 2 big units this week and, you know, kind of roll up the energy a little bit. But I did do some other pieces as well, like I worked on, this corn guy. I can't remember the name of this unit now, but the guys that wear armor on half their body and wear nothing on the other half, because they're really, really smart over in Cornland. So, and I've also got a tutorial coming up this week that I filmed on the weekend of a snakebite clan orc painted entirely with contrast paints. And this is also my first time really testing contrast paints over metallics. So you can see a lot of these details are actually a lead belcher base coat with a basilicanum gray wash over top. And pretty happy with how they came out. You can still see a little bit of the metal glinting underneath it. It does a good job. So, there's that. Little wins. Anyway, so that is my day 9 update. Certainly not quite as far along as I thought I'd be. I didn't think I was going to spend 3 days painting animals. I thought I had like 1 day of that to do. So this week I'm going to be playing catch up, trying to basically get ahead of... I want to be ahead of the 50% mark at the end of this week. And that's going to mean... The nice thing is, like, I've got a couple, hero models that are, 220, 240 points apiece. So if I paint one of those, I'm almost there. So... it shouldn't be too hard. Should not be too hard to stay ahead of my 50% mark. So I've got a couple other videos hitting YouTube this week. I'm going to be posting the completed Duke Pro from Star Hat Minis, which is the model I started in the Gryph-charger Gray and Magos Purple experiment. And then I've also got Flint from Guild Ball going up as well, and hopefully the Snakebite model. So it's going to be another busy week on the channel, and hopefully everyone enjoys what I'm doing. I'm also starting a new series. I'm not sure when the first episode is going to go up, but I'm calling it What the Flock. And basically it's going to be a bit of a question and answer, kind of in an experiment sort of mode. What I mean by that is you guys have asked me a lot of questions on YouTube asking, hey, how do you think X will look with Y? Like, how do you think, dry brushing this over this will look, and so on. And rather than just speculating in YouTube comments and, helping one person out, I'm going to take those comments and actually use them as the basis for YouTube videos where I'm doing paint experiments. Because the one thing we love to do on my live show is I do painting experiments all the time. We've got a couple little units, the Demo Marines. There's 2 or 3 of these guys kicking around my desk. And you can see every surface on him tests something different. We tested, actual chrome, non-metallic chrome, all sorts of different reds. Doing some comic style shading on a shoulder pad. Just, the other Demo Marine has one shoulder pad as a Wallace tartan, and then the one on this side's leather. It's pretty crazy. And that's great for my live stream, but I feel like everyone who watches my stuff on YouTube is almost missing out on that. And so what I want to do is start to take what you guys ask me in the YouTube comments and just use that as a springboard for doing quick little, 3-4 minute painting demos. So if you've got simple questions like, hey, what do these 2 colors look like together? What complements this? How would you achieve X? Like say someone asked me how to do non-metallic chrome the other day on my live show. Any questions like that, feel free to ask them. You can, post them in the YouTube comments down below here, or you can wait until the first episode of What the Flock goes up and ask them there. And I've probably got enough questions among all the different comments you guys have left in my contrast videos for maybe the first 10 episodes anyway. Anyway, that is very, very tangent to this vlog, so I'm going to just end it here. And the AC just came on, which is going to make some background noise, so we're good. We're going to stop here. I'll be back again in a couple days, hopefully with something big mounted and painted. Catch you later, flock. Hey, if you enjoyed this video here on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you get notifications when I post new videos. You can also join me at twitch.tv/epicduckstudios on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday evenings at 8:30 p.m. Eastern for live painting and sculpting shows. If you'd like to support this show, you can do that at patreon.com/epicduck. Every little bit helps cover the cost of paint, models, and all my video production gear, but more importantly, it helps keep food in my kid's belly and a roof over his head. I'd like to give a huge thank you to all of my patrons and Twitch subscribers, both past and present. Your ongoing support and encouragement is really what makes this possible. Thanks for watching, and until next time, do something epic.